Hello there, my name is Josh and welcome back to my Survivor 46 Power Rankings for episode 7 or episode several as it was titled. If you haven't seen my rankings from last week, I do implore you to go and check them out. I feel like I did an okay job. Obviously there will be some things changing around this week. Yet again though, if you are new to the channel, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment your rankings below. I'm always interested to see what other people are thinking. So of course we had the double boot episode this week, which was actually probably the best episode of the season so far. It has been definitely picking up lately, which is great to see. And the first boot of the episode we had was Tim. Now, I had Tim ranked at 9th last week, so I definitely did not have much hope in him at all. I only really had him that high because he had the alliance of 6, so I thought, you know, he's got some decent upside. He could go far in the game if he did ride on that alliance. And in the end, he really stuffed it up for himself. He had that alliance. All he had to do was just sacrifice Ben. He got way too focused on Nami being such a big threat, even though we know how fractured they truly are. He really was tunnel visioned and trying to save Ben, but he didn't think about rule number 1, which is always save yourself before your allies. And I think he played himself out of the game here, but it was unfortunate to see. But yeah, I really just think he misplayed heavily and should have just tried to sacrifice Ben in this position, because he has a viable way to the end if that alliance of 6 sticks together. But he just ruined it for himself by trying to target a member of his group way too early. And the worst part is, I think Hunter staying in the game is better for him as well, because not only is he a part of that alliance, but he's another big target to keep in front of you. I think if Tim stays in the game here, I think he could honestly make a deep run. So I think it's unfortunate that he misplayed this round so poorly. Now, I do feel kind of bad. I went in a bit on Tim there. Tim, it's nothing personal, man. That's the way I felt, and I like to be honest in these videos. I let out my frustration. I'm a Survivor fan, you know. I think with logic. I'm not the person that's actually on the island though, so of course. So whilst I can sit at home saying all these things, you know, they're actually the ones experiencing it, so I can understand. Now, the second boot of the episode, of course, was Soda, and now Soda I feel a lot different about, because I really don't think Soda did much wrong here. I think it was a silly move for Tevin to get her out, because I think, again, it's someone that you can use as a shield. She clearly trusts you so much, and I even think for Charlie and Maria, Soda is someone that they could trust. I don't think they've all said that they cannot trust Venus. And no one trusts Venus, so why leave someone like that in the game? Why leave a wild card in the game, especially for Tevin, who knows that she does not want to work with him and does not trust him at all? So I didn't really understand how the vote ended up going on to Soda this week. I did predict her in 11th last week, so I am quite proud of myself for that. I didn't really think she had a shot to win, which obviously came to fruition in the episode, but yeah, I do feel quite bad for her. I don't think she did much wrong. I really can't criticize her for anything. I think going after Venus is arguably the right move, but even then, I think the next best move was probably to go after Charlie, which, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe going for Charlie was the better move for her game, but I don't see a way that she survives here, because they just had such a want to eliminate her, which still is kind of bizarre to me, but that's the game, I guess. And now we are on to the players actually in the game. And by the way, I've added like an arrow to point whether they've gone up or down on the rankings, and whilst Venus has stayed at the same point, we've had someone jump her in the rankings, which is why she has a red arrow. So that explains it. You know, they may not have actually gone down on the rankings, but if someone has jumped above them, then that gives them a red arrow. So yeah, that's just explaining that. So Venus, again, another really bad episode for Venus here. Her edit is just getting worse and worse. It's tough to watch at times. You know, she's really trying to make these big moves, which probably are the right moves for her game, but no one wants to work with her. No one wants to go with her, and I just don't see a path where she can win this game at all. I think she could definitely go far. I could honestly still see her getting to the final three, but this is a ranking of who I think is going to win the game, and I truly think right now she is the least likely to win. And, you know, we saw she tried to claim the move on Soda, and immediately the edit showed Tevin going, nope, that was my move. It's just not looking good for Venus, and even though she's so loved by a lot of the fans, I just don't think there is a world where she can end up winning the season. Not that she won't continue to create good entertainment for us all though, which is always a nice thing. And now we are moving on to Liz. Now, Liz actually had a good episode in my opinion, and I think she is probably the only Nami that will benefit from Soda going home, because it makes her less threatening. She continues to stay under the radar, and everyone seems to want to work with her, which is impressive to see, honestly. She still is not really very high on my ranking. She's gone above Venus. She was last, so fair play. She's moved up. She hasn't bribed me. But that is still an option, you know, Liz, if you want. She's playing a very under-the-radar social game. Her name is never coming up for the vote, which is impressive to see. And that is the game that we've seen of a lot of the new era winners, but I just don't think still she's not got enough edit. I don't think she's got like the super likable personality either, which means, you know, if she was to make it to the end, would they want to award her the $1 million? I'm not sure, even though I have seen on Twitter, like, she seems to be such a likable person on Twitter. Like, truly, a lot of her tweets are very funny. You need to go check them out if you haven't already, but we're not really getting that on the season itself. But I have to say, I was glad to see that she could eat some of the food reward. That was always nice to see. But yeah, still not very high on Liz's chances of winning the season. And now we have another person who has unfortunately moved down, which is Q. One of my favourites of the season. But this episode truly cemented to me that he is not winning the game. I even almost considered putting him in 9th or 10th. But I just thought, you know what, in the maybe 0.1% chance where he immunities himself to the end, we'll put him here. I think he is a very blunt person. Like, you can see he gets what he wants, or, you know, it's Q's way or the highway. We can tell from his confessionals and his conversations with his alliances, and they were definitely sowing the seeds of his ultimate downfall in this episode, which was very clear to see. And I do think Tiffany and Kenzie are in it for the long haul. I think they're going to take out Q, which will reduce their threat level, and ultimately I think that is what's going to happen here. I do think Q had an okay episode, but I do think him taking out Ben would have been the correct move, because I still think the 6 is a viable option for him, and I think the only real person that benefited from that vote was Kenzie, because Ben is closer to Kenzie, not very close to Q, and I think they made the wrong decision there. But again, Tim still kind of just did it to himself, so I don't blame Q too much, as he thinks he's still, you know, tight with the Yanu 3, but I don't think they're going to stay together like we saw the Tika 3 do. I do think Q is going to be sacrificed sooner rather than later, maybe in one of the next 2 or 3 episodes. I do believe we will ultimately see him get voted out. So yeah, not very high on his chances at all. And now we have Ben, who had a poor episode. I mean, we obviously had that nice moment with him having a panic attack and, you know, him talking us through that. And it was nice to see that kind of thing get talked about. But I just think that whole scene then just became Kenzie's scene, which, you know, is a big thing. You know, this was a big moment for Ben, and then it felt like it got turned into something that we should be thinking about Kenzie for rather than Ben, which, I mean, that's just the way it was edited in my opinion anyway. And again, we're just not seeing him strategize, so I'm like, he is so likable, and, you know, I could see him win over a jury, but what moves is he currently going to have to be able to talk about? And I truly just don't see anything right now. Of course, he could still have a great end game and pop up out of nowhere, and it's good that he managed to save himself here. He clearly has a good relationship with Kenzie and Sega still, but I do think Sega next week is going to be in trouble still. Unless it's Q. I think it'll be Q or a member from Sega next week. But yeah, I still think Ben is a bit of a wild card, but I do not see him winning at this current moment in time anyway. And now we have Maria, who won immunity in this episode, which was nice to see. You know, she did a very good job. She's moved up above Ben and Q, which is why she's got a green arrow this week, up into 6th. I just think she has a better chance than the people below her. I still don't think she has a very big chance. I think the top 5 is truly where the winner contenders come in, and that's the big hitters. And the top 5 for me was the hardest to rank. But what do I think about Maria in this episode? I think she handled Venus kind of poorly, in my opinion. I think that was not the best way to do it. I think because I think Venus was trying to work with her, you know, she was trying to extend an olive branch, but everyone is just shutting her down. We saw Venus have that whole comment about her ego. I don't think it's an ego thing. You know, Venus is a wild card. Maybe she could pick up Venus as a number, which is what I think she should have been doing. I think she should have been actively working to bring Venus onto her side, so then they would have extra numbers, because surely she should see that Sega is probably going to take a hit on the other tribes, so she should be working to try and pull some extra numbers in. And I just think Tevin has got different options than working with her and Charlie, and I think they maybe have been put into a worse position than they were in the week before. Okay, and now we have Maria's number 1 ally, Charlie, who has actually taken a big dive downwards. He's jumped in the deep end and he's drowned from 1st to 5th. I'm sorry, Charlie. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's changed my mind, but my mind has just changed. I just struggle to see a Sega player winning the season at this point, which is why I've pushed him down. I do think him managing to survive this episode was impressive, but I do think a lot of that was to do with Nami just self-imploding, because sometimes, you know, it is the right move to just make the safe move, but clearly that's not what Nami think. But yeah, I thought he had an okay edit again, but I just think that's all it is. I feel like he's getting a consistent edit, and maybe he's going to finish like 5th or 6th or something like that, you know. I'm not sure he's got the numbers to make a deep run in the game. I think, you know, maybe someone like Ben will get sniped off at the next tribal council, and I just thought, you know, I didn't feel great putting him first last week, and this week I just thought, you know what, I'm going to have to take him down a few pegs, because there's 4 people who I think now have a better chance, which I know it's a dramatic change in 1 week, but you know, that was my first time doing these rankings, so I've decided to move him down. And now staying in 4th for another week is Tevin, who had an interesting episode. I mean, I thought his logic was completely wrong. I thought him wanting to get Soda out so soon now for a while has been interesting decision, to say the least. I'm not too sure if that's the right move. In fact, you know, I don't think it's the right move personally. I think the right move for him was to take out someone that we know actively is trying to eliminate him from the game in Venus. I mean, I don't know why he didn't go for that at this tribal council and instead went for someone who clearly trusts him. Maybe it will work out, because again, he's still had a decent edit in my opinion. He's still in a good spot in the game, I do believe, but I just think I could see a few people now who may want to eliminate Tevin. However, not in the near future, which is why I think he's guaranteed to probably make, you know, at least top 6 in the season. But however, I just don't know right now if I see him as the winner, which I still definitely could see him as the winner, is what I'm trying to say. But I have 3 people currently ahead of him, even though, you know, I do see him going far and having a lot of potential. You know, I think Survivor really wanted us to see that it was his move, even though he didn't even vote that way. I just don't know. He's just sort of like a grey area where I think we need a few more episodes, 1 or 2 more episodes, and then he'll either move up or he'll move down in those next 2, depending on what he gets in those episodes. And now we're in the top 3, and Hunter yet again has stayed in the top 3, but he's moved down into 3rd place, where he was 2nd place in my rankings before the last episode. But I don't think that was any fault of his that he got moved down in this episode, because I do believe he had a pretty solid episode, you know. He got split into a situation that could have been dangerous for him. But, you know, he had a lot of content talking about that he might play as idol, so I was like, oh, is this how he's going to ultimately end up going out of the game? He's going to waste his idol here, and then he's going to be vulnerable later down the line. But he held his nerve, and he did a very good job sticking with Q and the Yanu 3, which definitely looks like a solid option for him moving forwards. I think him and Tevin could work with the Yanu 3, although we have seen that there is still a lot of talk about getting Q out, so but I think it's a good thing for Hunter that he is not seen as that huge threat, and that it is currently Q, because he also has an idol in his back pocket, which just shows that he's got very, very big potential in this game. Because if he gets through 1 or 2 more votes, you know, he can win immunities, he's got his idol. I think he's got a pretty decent social game going with the alliances that he's in. I just don't know right now if he will make it to the final 3, and if he does make it to the final 3, is he the kind of player in the new era that's going to be able to portray to a jury why they deserve to win the season? I'm not 100% sure yet, but he is staying in the top 3, so I do still have quite high hopes for Hunter in this game, and I could definitely see him win ultimately. And now we have Tiffany, number 2. I think Tiffany had another fantastic episode here. I think we saw her closen her bond with Kenzie, which is ultimately the direction that I think they're going to go in. I think she's going to stick with Kenzie now, and they're going to go very far together. She's still got that idol in her pocket, which is not known about by anyone other than her alliance, so that is still very, very valuable to her. I think no one is looking at her as a big target at the moment, whilst she is directing so much of these votes. I think she's genuinely been pulling the strings since day 1 of this game, and I think since day 1 of the game she's been having a very good edit as well. I just think in this episode she was outshone by her partner, who obviously I'll talk about very soon. But I think she had a fantastic episode, and she's truly competing for that number 1 slot, and all it would take is 1 or 2 things to be different about the edit and she would be number 1, you know. That is how close it is for me. But I feel good about Tiffany. She's in my draft team. I'm rooting for her, but I definitely could see her being the winner of this season still, and it's been like that since the first episode. So that's one thing, that a lot of the new era winners, they do come out at the merge rather than having like a consistent edit all the way through. But we have seen that with D and with Jam Jam, so I do think she could be the winner, especially with the edit she's been getting. It's been very solid, and she's playing a very, very good game as well. Although I do think, again, she probably should have taken out Ben here, as I think Ben staying in the game only benefits the person I'm about to talk about. And of course that person is Kenzie, who had a fantastic episode edit-wise. She's moved up from me from 5th to 1st, so her and Charlie have swapped places, which is very impressive, honestly, to jump from 5th to 1st in my rankings. But I did say in my video, I was like, if there's one person that I'm regretting putting where they are, it's Kenzie. And this is why, because I felt really good about her edit for a little while now. And yeah, so obviously the episode started and she had her moment with Ben, which I think portrayed her in a really, really good light, which obviously Survivor will want their winner to be portrayed in a good light. But even just as a human being, you know, you could tell that that was just her being a nice person. And of course things like that are very good for your edit. And then we got to the immunity challenge, which she won, which was very impressive, and she seemed very happy about that, of course. And then she, at the vote, you know, she managed to get her way, which was to get Tim out, which was the best move for her, for sure. That benefits her so much, because the 6 is now dead, which means she's definitely going to be included going forwards, and there's no really viable option for Yanu to move forwards without her, which makes her pretty invaluable to them. And you know, people seem to have forgotten Banu calling her the mastermind and things like that. So I think, yeah, things are all looking very up for Kenzie at the moment. And I think Ben staying in the game does benefit her a lot, even if he's on the jury and she makes the end. I think that's a vote that could potentially go to her just for how nice she was to him in that moment as a human being, you know. And yeah, so I'm very, very high on Kenzie after this episode. She's become my new winner pick. But last season at this point, I think I had Kelly as my winner pick, so obviously we saw how that went. But I'm feeling better about this one. This is the one. Come back to this video at the end of the season and I'll have been right. I hope. Probably not. Anyways, thank you very much for once again watching my rankings this week. I really appreciate you all. Anyone that's watched this far, leave a like, subscribe, let me know your rankings in the comments below, and I'll reply to all of you, of course. You know, I reply to every comment, I read every comment. But yeah, thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.